Okay, welcome to Jesus the Good Shepherd Anglican Church. The Giles family are here in the heat of the day at Jesus the Good Shepherd. We usually let the AC turn off during the week, so it's a little warm in here, huh guys?
Yes.
Thanks for being here with me though, because this Saturday is what?
Transfiguration picnic.
Right, the Transfiguration picnic. So this Saturday, August 5th, we'll have details in the comments below the video so that you can get up there. Do you guys remember where it's at?
Yes.
Where?
Lee Canyon Foxtail Picnic Grounds, Mount Charleston.
Good job, John. Lee Canyon Foxtail Picnic Grounds, Mount Charleston. Well done. Well done. So about 10 to 2, we'll be there in the middle of the day. Come and join us, have a picnic, bring your lunch. What else should they bring?
Probably hats.
Yeah.
Definitely hats and sunscreen and chairs to sit on for the adults.
And maybe a canopy.
Okay, if you've got a canopy.
Canopy or two.
Yeah. We've got a canopy, but other people may just enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have good weather. So what's the Transfiguration? What happens?
It's where Jesus goes onto Mount Olive? Or is it a different?
Nope, it's a different mountain. It's either Tabor or Hermon. We're not really sure. So Tabor and Hermon are both mountains that get associated as early as the very early 4th century. St. Helen, mother of Constantine, right? She finds the site and she builds a church. And so as early as like 315, Christians are celebrating and remembering the Transfiguration as a feast day. Perhaps earlier, Origen writes about the Transfiguration, writes about celebrating it and commemorating it. So it's on Mount Tabor, Hermon, and what happens up there?
Well, I can leave you to do the entire story, but it's when the uncreated light of Jesus shines forth and is revealed.
The uncreated light of Jesus, exactly. And so show us that on the icon. Hopefully you all can see this icon. I'm going to bring the camera up a little bit closer when we talk about it in more detail, but show us the uncreated light. Maybe I'll just do that now, John. So go ahead and point out for us the uncreated light.
So that's stuff around Jesus.
And then what else can you point out to us on this icon?
Well, you can also Moses and Elijah.
Okay, who is who? Do you know?
I think that is Moses and that's Elijah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Why do we think that's Moses?
Because he has the law.
He has the book of the law, exactly right. And Elijah is shown as very elderly, right? Because he ascends into heaven on the fiery chariot, right? And then we have the 3 apostles. Any guesses as to who is who here?
I think that's Peter.
Yes, very good. Often pictured kind of falling down, leaning on one arm, pointing with another. Who else?
I think that's James and that's John, but I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. John is the younger, right? And so he's shown as a very young man again, falling down, and James as well. And lots to say about Peter, James, and John. Why those 3? They're leaders of the 12. They're humbled before the Lord. They give clear descriptions of his divinity, worshiping him. Peter says that he's the Christ. Peter loves Jesus. John is loved by Jesus. And then James is perhaps the first martyred by Herod, right? Very early. Yeah. So very good. So there's 3 or 4 places that we read about the Transfiguration. So if you want to read about it, you're going to go to Matthew chapter 17. You're going to go to Mark chapter 9. And you're going to go to Luke also chapter 9. The 4th place that you could go is for a very brief kind of description about it in 2 Peter. So Peter's second letter. And the 1st chapter. We read there where he says, we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. He's referring to the Transfiguration there. So what happens? Why are we remembering the Transfiguration? So again, like you all noted, he meets with Moses and Elijah. And why is it he goes up to the mountain? Do you remember why he goes up?
Wasn't he praying though?
He goes up to pray. Exactly right. And then he meets Moses and Elijah, and they're representative of what? Do you remember that?
The law and the prophets.
The law and the prophets. So
like we say every Sunday in the summary of the law.
in the summary of the law, exactly right. So Moses being the summary of the law, and Elijah being the summary of
The prophets.
the prophets. And then they see his uncreated light, right? So the fathers do a number of things with this, especially St. John Chrysostom, as we said. Origen talks a lot about the Transfiguration. St. Hilary of Poitiers talks about it. And they do what the fathers often do, which is they give an allegorical interpretation, which is very important for us, right? Very important for us to think about this story allegorically, right? So Jesus is revealing himself as God, right? He's being transfigured by, as you said, the uncreated light, right? So this light that comes from heaven, from his divinity, right? And then he's revealing to Peter, James, and John that he is in synchrony and agreement with the law and the prophets, right? Because a lot of people were saying, oh, you're teaching something different than Moses or different than the prophets. And so he meets with them and talks with them and to show his agreement with them, right? That he's in agreement with them. So that's talked about a lot allegorically. You mentioned that he goes up there to pray, which opens up another really important point. And he's talking with Moses and Elijah. Do you remember what he's talking about?
What he's going to accomplish on the cross.
Yes. So he's talking about his accomplishment. So there's the allegorical reading, but then there is just the straightforward reading, right? So number one, this happens after the teaching that everyone has to pick up their cross and follow Jesus, right? So after he tells them everyone has to take up their cross who's going to follow me, then he goes up on the mountain and he talks about doing what?
Taking up your cross and following him.
Exactly right. So he goes up and he shows them how he's going to take up his cross. He goes up to pray. Why is that important for us to know that Jesus goes apart to pray?
Well, he doesn't do it as maybe some of like the Pharisees or the Sadducees do it, because they do it in front of the people in public so that everyone knows what they're doing.
Isn't that talked about in Lent?
Mm-hmm. It is. It
You're
is.
by yourself with the door shut.
So he's going apart. He's going by himself, even though he takes the three as witnesses, right? So that's really important. And then he is praying about what's going to happen, right, with Moses and Elijah, right? And so we've talked about them being the law and the prophets, but they're also, we've got a lot of noise here at the church. It's the joy of being in a space like ours. We say in the Eucharistic prayer, which is always said in the Eucharistic prayer, that we are joined with angels and with archangels and with
All the company of heaven.
all the company of heaven. So we pray and we worship with all the company of heaven, right? So that's what he's doing, right? He is praying with the whole company of heaven. And he's praying about what he's going to accomplish on the cross, right? And so there's so much for us to think about when we think about what it means to be the communion of saints, what it means to be in a communion, right? It means that we talk with one another in fellowship. We talk about what the Lord has given us to do. We talk about what he's accomplishing and what he has accomplished, right? We do it in community, right? Even Jesus, in the community of Elijah and Moses with the witness of the apostles, does what he does in fellowship. And so that's what we're going to do in the picnic, right? We're going to have fellowship. And we're going to pray. And we're going to celebrate the witness of the Lord. Anything else that we should say about the Transfiguration as we get ready for the picnic this Saturday?
Well, isn't there also what Peter says about after Moses and Elijah appear and Jesus starts talking with them?
Yeah, about the tents.
Yes.
Right, about making tents, yes. Or booths. What is that? What is he referring to there when he talks about tents or booths?
The traveling through the wilderness.
For 40 days and 40 nights.
You guys referring to that wilderness time and the practice of the festival of booths, right? Remembering that time by living in booths. So he's right on, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's right on about the witness of the wilderness wandering and the feast of the tabernacles. But there's a new tabernacling, isn't there? Which is what the voice of the Father says. The voice of the Father says, "This is my Son," right? And so we're tabernacling with Jesus, and he's tabernacling with us, right? Through prayer, right? He's dwelling with us. So we are building booths, but we're building them where?
In our hearts.
In our hearts. And he goes with us everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we go with him, right? Because we're living in the life of Christ. What else? Anything else we missed? Well, that's a good start. I think we scratched the surface, huh, guys?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I hope we see you this Saturday at the Feast of the Transfiguration. Until then, the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and give you his peace. Bye-bye.